Oshinoko is fitting to the story's content and its characters, a rising star in the world of anime and manga. An anime with a meteoric rise to popularity and acclaim, adapted from an already massively popular manga written by the writer of one of the greatest romance series of all time, and with an opening song that is still stuck in the public consciousness to this day. I've definitely contributed to that. But what we've seen from Oshinoko's anime and its perspective as yet another idol anime with a dark twist is just a small portion of what this series is actually about. This is more than just a story of an idol and her children following in her footsteps. It's more than just a peek into the idol industry. The story of Oshinoko is a story of love and lies, but how those two forces can empower or corrupt someone in the world of entertainment as a whole. Not just idols, not just music, not just TV and film, but even into the world of theater and everything that entails. With this new season, if you expect it to be just an idol story, you'll find that there's going to be more than you ever thought, as the story delves into an arc that I consider to be the best in the entire series, Tokyo Blade. It's a story that covers the nature of acting, what it means to dive into the mindset of a character that you play, how that character can change from source material to an adaptation, and how even something like a stage play can be vastly different from anything you see in an anime or a live action adaptation. And we're already seeing those changes with how the anime is being adapted. Licensing rights and complications that come with them, clashing personalities, and the struggle to achieve the perfect performance and to captivate the audience are all just small elements that form what makes Tokyo Blade as a whole one of the greatest arcs in not just Oshinoko, but possibly all of anime. But what sticks out to me about Tokyo Blade is what it means for two characters in particular, Arima Kana and Kurokawa Akane.
As the two main love interests to the protagonist Hoshino Aqua, it's no surprise that both of them not only get tons of focus in the series, but are also integral to the core themes of the story and also to the growth of Aqua himself. Even past my favorite arc in the series, Akane and Kana proved to be some of the most important driving forces towards determining where Aqua will go in his path towards revenge. But both are so wildly different in the way that they act, from their designs being opposites, and especially their approach towards acting, that it's easy to see why people will praise one and write off the other. And even though I clearly have my bias, Akane is still my second favorite character in the series for a reason. And I want to take this opportunity to not just explain why both have their appeals, but also show how important they are to the core of the story, that even writing one of them off misses the point of not just the story, but of one another.
I've been meaning to talk more about Oshinoko, and I feel like past my original video, I haven't had much of a chance to do so. The tone of my content is changing from this point forward, so I wanted to take a look at one of my favorite arcs and see what makes it tick. Along with this, the new season and the manga approaching its end, I figure what better time to talk about how Oshinoko Season 2 will change everything, and how that all starts with the characters of the genius actress of the past and the current rising star.
Arima Kana is introduced to us as someone who, while pompous, demanding, and frankly irritating, is someone who cares very deeply about the art of acting, writing off Ai as just a pretty face, likely not to just be mean, but because in her experience, that ends up just being the truth. I mean, she's been acting at this point for quite a while. But during the scene, she's upstaged by Aqua, who better embodied the vision of the director, showing he was a superior actor despite this being his first time, causing her to beg director Gotanda to reshoot the scene so she can do even better. She very clearly takes pride in her acting ability, and given the fact that she got her fame as the girl who can lick baking soda like that, the genius child actress Arima Kana is someone who even as a kid knew what good acting was, but also when someone was even better. What's funny about her introduction is that I actually found her extremely irritating and annoying the first time around. In fact, the scene where she begs for the retake in the manga portrays her as self-centered and whiny. But watching the anime's portrayal of the scene, and especially knowing what we know about her now, I don't get that same impression of her. But we'll come back to that. Kana easily has more material to talk about because she's in the story since the beginning and thus isn't there longer. And we see more development from this person she was when she comes back in the story as the washed up former child star who struggles to find work. The reason she recruits Aqua to join the cast of the Sweet Today drama is because of her respect for him as an actor, a respect that the crew doesn't give her, only using her because they see her as expendable and easy to work with. This is what I found interesting about her when she returned in the story and why she ends up becoming my favorite character. Arima Kana was always someone who wanted to feel needed. Behind her harsh words and her pompous attitude, there's someone who's willing to do anything if it means someone values her ability. But as she got older and her value as a child star dwindled, she realized she was getting left behind. People who previously held her on a pedestal were abandoning her, disappointed at her dwindling stardom. And Kana was desperately trying to cling to anyone who would stay around, even if it meant abandoning her acting ability to make others shine brighter. It really gives that scene where she's crying to beg director Gotanda to reshoot the scene even more weight, because these aren't the words of a whiny child trying to get her way. This is a girl who realized that she might not be needed. But in that same scene where Aqua gives the spotlight back to her, the genius actress shows she still has what it takes. But also another hint as to what separates her from the character I'll be talking about next. Kurokawa Akane, in contrast to Kana, is very timid and introverted. Introduced in the Love Now arc, she's one of the 6 cast members of the reality romance series between fellow young artists, but is also the one who stands out the least. Despite her efforts and diligence, she ended up falling behind her castmates and was dwindling in popularity. After hearing an argument from her manager, she decides to take drastic measures to boost her attention, which worked, just not how she planned. In the face of the cruelty of the masses and the scrutiny of the faceless mobs of the internet, Akane was crushed by the pressure and almost took her own life, if not for Aqua saving her. And after the entire cast of Love Now put forth their best efforts to make the world see who she was, she took the advice of Yuki to try something different. She should utilize more of her acting ability, which gives us a scene of her doing research into the kind of person Aqua loves. A pretty girl with a smile like the sun, perfect performance and invincible charisma, whose eyes draw in everyone who sees them. And almost like The Question or L breaking down a case, Akane breaks down everything and anything that made Hoshino Ai who she was, through how thoroughly she prepares for a role and how much of herself she throws into a performance. Kurokawa Akane can only be called a genius. Almost as if she were possessed by her spirit, the timid Akane who couldn't even garner enough attention for the majority of the show became the spitting image of Hoshino Ai. Mama. And not only stole Aqua's heart, made a deduction from her research that shook him to his core. Hoshino Ai had children she couldn't reveal to the world. The introductions to both of these characters into the story center around their acting. In order for Kana to hold on to the people around her, she had to crush who she was and become someone who lets others outshine her if it meant she was useful. While she took to heart director Gotanda's advice to become easier to work with, which allowed her to stay in the industry for longer, the Kana who drew everyone in wasn't there anymore. Akane put her heart and soul into being an actress, but couldn't figure out how to draw people to her in a situation that didn't have a role for her to play, leaving her defenseless as the world ripped her and her insecurities to shreds. The plight of the child actress losing popularity, as the adults who used her lost interest, as well as the incredibly realistic depiction of the effects of cancel culture and the way the media will throw the victims to the screaming masses if it means getting any attention, are handled so well with each of their characters. But what I find interesting isn't this, but how both used lies in order to move forward. Kana lied to herself that she was fine crushing who she was, and Akane lied in order to draw others to her. At the center of Oshinoko's narrative is Hoshino Ai, but more importantly, the fact that she is the ultimate liar. I've pretty much covered the basics in my previous Oshinoko video, but what's very interesting to me is the way both of these characters use lies, but also the way both of them draw from Hoshino Ai to move forward. Since Ai is the thematic core of this story, how both Kana and Akane approach the path of an idol is very important to understand the difference between them, especially given Ai's connection to acting. When Akane embodied the spirit of Ai, it was because of her similar ability to become anyone the role requires. Through meticulous research and insane amounts of detective work, she's able to abandon who she is and become someone else, showing the world the type of person they want to see. But Kana is not that kind of person. Every lie she told crushed her and was only a way for her to keep others around her. But through her experience with the newly revived Bikomachi, she realizes that she doesn't need to brace for failure or lie to herself that she needs to succeed or others will leave her. She's the rookie idol Arima Kana, the center of Bikomachi, winning over the audience not through any forced performance or fake smile and not through a lie, but with a genuine desire to make the person she loves hers. As long as she's an idol, she's going to make sure he waves nothing but white. She'll be his only idol. When Ai told people she loved them, even though she wanted those words to be true, she knew they were a lie. But Kana's desire to make sure Aqua only saw her was pure. It was the truth. And only then did she embody the type of idol that an idol otaku would love and that drew in the audience. The difference between embodying the same type of person Ai was versus being someone who is every bit as opposite to her highlights how different Kana and Akane are from one another. It really makes sense why they hate each other and why the fanbase consistently will pick one and then hate on the other in full force. It's two entirely different character archetypes. The timid girl with the dark side versus the bad-mouthed tsundere are as polar opposites as anything else could be. Let alone when you start throwing in characters like Ruby and Memcho into the mix. There's a reason why the waifu wars for this series are incomprehensibly bad. As such, we see the difference the series is going forward with in full force once we enter the Tokyo Blade arc. Let's talk about why Arima Kana and Kurokawa Akane hate each other so much. Akane was a fan of Kana, so much so that she watched all of her films and dressed the same as her. Akane wanted to be Arima Kana, the genius child actress who was outgoing, talented, and loved by everyone. Everything she herself wasn't. But you know that saying, don't meet your heroes? Yeah, that adoration Akane had all changed when they both went to an audition for a role. Mistaking her for Kana, the staff told Akane that the audition was a formality and that Kana was always going to get the role, which, when told to Kana by Akane, sends her into a rage. They didn't even care about acting ability because they only valued Kana for her name. In fact, any stupid child with a good enough face and name could have probably just played the same role. That's pretty much how they viewed Kana. And Kana, who already started to experience how little her acting mattered and how little respect they gave her, screams at Akane, "Who cares about acting anyway?" In Akane's desire to understand that fear and anger and why Kana would say those words, she studied until she became the person who could surpass her idol. Someone who could perfectly embody the role, renowned solely for her acting ability. Akane became someone whose acting could consume everything around her, like a flame that stole the light from everyone around. Sound familiar? And finally, on this stage opposite to her, she had the chance to beat her on equal ground. But that couldn't happen if Kana kept trying to let others shine. Arima Kana, despite all the charisma she gained back from her time as the center of Bikomachi, still was stuck as the self-deprecating, self-hating, and fearful little girl who watched everyone around her leave. The only reason she even did acting was because it was her mom's dream, and Kana did everything she could to make her happy and make her mom's dreams come true. Unlike Ai, who didn't care if people loved her, Kana was desperate for love from everyone around her. She'd be willing to work herself to the bone if it meant she was useful, but Kana's at her best when she's selfish, arrogant, and brilliant like the sun, not pointing the spotlight at others. When given her chance to shine by Aqua and Akane, Kana showed off the reason why she became a household name. Not because she can cry in 10 seconds flat, but because her performance draws in everyone in the audience, inspiring them to act because of how fun she makes it seem. I think the comparison of their acting and the way it's described perfectly illustrates how opposite in terms of Oshinoko's main theme they actually are. Akane interprets acting that draws in the audience similar to the description Aqua gives to Ai's performance, like moths to the flame, burning alive and not realizing it before it's too late. But Kana, like the sun, illuminates the stage and makes others want to join in, even down to the famous star eyes that symbolize one's desire to pursue love. Akane's is a mirrored match to Ai's, while Kana's is a galaxy filled with stars. In the page of her brilliant performance, we see her instead surrounded by stars and light. It's as different as a starry night sky versus the sun in the summer sky. Now, this isn't to say either one is inherently better than the other. In fact, after the play is over, both girls make the judgment that the other outshined them in acting ability. It's all down to the preference, and either one works in different ways. What's important is really how both sort of embody these themes, and how both show that Ai, as well as Aqua and Ruby's pursuit of revenge, was always in the wrong. Despite Akane's almost psychopathic willingness to kill someone if Aqua wanted her to, she's only willing to do so if it means avoiding Aqua and Ruby's self-destruction. Rather than how they want revenge, Akane wants to use her lies, her acting, in order to prevent the person she loves from destroying herself. It's also why she's one of the actresses selected to play Ai in the movie. For Kana, she seems to be the light in the darkness that Aqua can take at any point, yet chooses to avoid in his blind pursuit for revenge. Down to the fact that Kana is leaving Bikomachi, her choice of completely abandoning the path of Ai shows that there's another way if only things didn't turn out the way they did. In fact, there's a plot point earlier where Aqua refuses to accept her love due to his desire to never repeat what happened to Ai, but gives him a clear path out by sharing with him that she won't be an idol any longer. Also, Kana is not one of the actresses selected to play Ai in the movie. Akane is someone who can take Ai's path in a more positive light, and Kana is someone who lies directly opposite and thus can be someone who can save Aqua and Ruby.
And for those who are current with the manga, that time may have already arrived. But that's a story for another day. Thank you guys for watching another video by yours truly, BooSham0. My content has been changing. I've been trying to make a shift towards more serious, emotionally focused content and more thematic analysis. So if you want to see more like this and other videos like this, please let me know what you thought of this in the comments below. My goal for the end of this year is to reach 10,000 subs, and with your guys' help, I can reach that. So please hit the subscribe button if you haven't, and hit the bell so you don't miss any more uploads like this. I have 2 big uploads coming up, so with your guys' help, we can reach it there. And again, just let me know what you think of videos like this in the comments below. And thank you guys for watching. I'll see you next time. Goodbye.